It's been a glorious homecoming for the men in blue. After suffering the ignominy of defeat in an ODI World Cup final last November, Team India finally ended their 13-year World Cup drought in Barbados. The win against South Africa in the nail-biting T20 World Cup finale last Sunday gave the Indian men's cricket team its first ICC tournament win since the Champions Trophy of 2013. Joining me now to revisit India's historic triumph and looking ahead to the future is the legendary Farokh Engineer, former Indian cricketer and commentator, cricket analyst Joy Bhattacharya, and sports journalist Sharda Urga and Gaurav Kalra. Also joining me from our Mumbai bureau are a bunch of cricket enthusiasts in our very own newsroom with Hormuz Fatakia.
Parikshit, thanks a lot for that, and it is indeed a momentous occasion. As you just mentioned, 11 years of waiting for an ICC title finally coming to an end over the weekend in Barbados, and I have with me our team of cricket enthusiasts, Jerome, Anurag, Rachna and Surbi joining in. But I'll start off by asking Mr. Engineer. Mr. Engineer, first of all, it's an absolute honor to have you today on this broadcast. And for cricket followers like us, there is no greater privilege than to hear words of wisdom from you. And I have to start off by asking you, sir, what does this win do to the morale of a team like India, having suffered so many defeats right on the cusp of victory? Because does this instill a lot of belief now that, yes, we can win crunch games too? Because there have been so many instances in the past, the World Cup semi-final of 2019, the two World Test Championship finals, the World Cup final itself last year. Now, do we get this belief that, yes, we can and we have this ability to win crunch games as well?
Yes, thank you for your kind words, and namaskar to all my brothers and sisters in India. I'm as proud a Desi as anyone is, although I live in Manchester and Cheshire, but I'm very, very much an Indian and exceedingly proud of our boys, what the boys have achieved. In 1971, I missed the ticker tape welcome when India beat England in England and the West Indies for the very first time. As the whole team came back with Wadekar and Gavaskar and everybody, I had to drive up to Manchester with packed tandoori chicken in my hand because I was playing a Lancashire-Yorkshire game the next day. And as I went out to open the innings the next morning, blurry-eyed because I had reached home at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a standing ovation from the whole Old Trafford packed audience and from all the Britishers mainly. And that brought a tear to my eye that, I've just literally shoved to their country the day before. And here it is, they themselves are giving me a standing ovation. So it was a wonderful feeling. On your question of whether it has increased the morale, I think the Indian team is such a strong team. I said in my, when I got the Life Achievement Award a couple of months ago in India from the BCCI, I said I got a standing ovation from the present Indian team, which meant a lot to me. I've received lots of honors here at Old Trafford, which is the background. They've got a hotel suite named in my name and a stand and all that. But to get recognition from your own Indian team and from your own country is nothing beats that. And I said at that time that this is the best Indian cricket team that's ever played for India, and I meant it. And the boys have just proved my point. And we got paid. I've got sorry to go on a bit, but someone keeps on sending me some viral messages that I won a Luna moped and Chandrasekhar as the best batsman for the India-England series. And V.S. Chandrasekhar won the best bowling prize, another Luna moped. And nowadays, the Indian team has got 125 crores, which I'm absolutely delighted. But just see the difference when in saying our boys thoroughly deserve every bit they've got. And I'm glad they won and getting a brilliant ovation back home.
Brilliantly put, Mr. Engineer. Yes, we've been reading how 30 years back, the winning team, every player used to get 125 to 200 rupees at best. And today, you're talking about a package like 125 crores. So we've really, really come a long way. And I have to ask you, and this is by popular demand, whether you missed being in the commentator's box. I'm going to come to that in just a bit, Mr. Engineer, but just to also bring in Sharda Ugra at this stage. Of course you do. Sharda, thank you so much for joining us. Do you feel that this victory here was completely driven by emotions? You had Rohit Sharma, Hardik Pandya having a tough time over the last 2 months or so. You had Virat Kohli, who was playing his last day in the T20 format. You had Rahul Dravid, who is all set to hang up his boots as the head coach. Do you feel that this was a team driven by raw emotions?
Hi, Parikshit. Congratulations to all of us, as I'm telling everyone these days. I don't think the victory was driven by emotion as much as it was driven by doing what they had to do, whatever the plans they had in place, the execution of their skill. What we saw after the victory, just all the emotion that you're talking about, I think that is just almost a release and a relief that they had actually crossed the line after making several finals in the last 13 months. This was their third ICC trophy final. I think it was that relief, but they were very, very sort of clear-eyed about what they had to do, and that's why they had such a good tournament where they were unbeaten. And the emotion that came after the what they had been dreaming of and working towards had been achieved. You saw tears in the eyes of all of them. You saw a lot of relief from so many players. It was a very, very I shouldn't say clinical, but it was very, very carefully planned. Sort of, it's literally like they kept their emotions to their side when it was 30 runs of 30 balls needed, and they said, "This is how we can do it. This is how we can push." And people in the audience said that Bumrah's over literally was the over that sparked all the audience as well, which had also fallen silent. So I think a lot of actual play in a manner in which they had trained and worked for, and then you saw the emotion come through.
Absolutely. And Gaurav, did you feel that this was a match where everyone played their part very well, and this is the winning formula which you need for a ICC trophy?
Parikshit, I think there's very little doubt that we are looking at a bunch of cricketers who are once-in-a-generation players, and Mr. Engineer alluded to that. Sharda mentioned that as well. You just look down that team sheet. I mean, the names that you have there, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, of course, but even the others, Jasprit Bumrah, who's now the best bowler in the world, perhaps the best white ball bowler of all time, Kuldeep Yadav, Hardik Pandya, Rishabh Pant, you can just go on and on. So it is a bunch of players which is among the best in the world, very skilled at what they do. And a team at the end of the day is really the combination of what every individual brings to the table. And I think in every position, India had the right players. Remember, just before the team went for this World Cup, the squad that was chosen came in for a lot of criticism. There was a lot of talk about whether India's made the right choices for spinners, whether they are playing the right depth, whether Hardik Pandya should be in the squad basis of his performance in the IPL that had just finished. I think considering all of those factors, given that the selectors took these calls and the team management had a plan in mind, they wanted to bat deep with the all-rounders, they wanted to give themselves batting options right to number 8 and an additional bowling option. I think from that point of view, it was as much a victory of emotion and all of that as it was of planning and execution and the ability to think through scenarios that they are likely to confront at every step and coming through at the end of it with success. Remember, this is it's a game of very fine margins. David Miller just times that a little bit better in the final over, and suddenly 10 left to win of 5, and South Africa get past the line, and then we are not talking on the same lines. So I think whenever we assess a sports team, we've got to keep all of that in mind. However, from an Indian perspective, you've just got to celebrate a moment like this, because just like what Sharda said, all this disappointment seems to have been swept away. All of us remember 19th of November 2023, not a very long time back, how that made everyone in India feel and how this makes people feel.
Joy, do you believe that somewhere the winning combination had a lot to do with the good relationship between Rahul Dravid, the head coach, Rohit Sharma, the captain, and also Ajit Agarkar. You know, about 6 to 7 months ago, Rahul Dravid was all set to hang up his boots as head coach, but Rohit Sharma called him up and requested him to continue. Do you think these three people together chartered the vision and the victory formula, so to say?
I think they had a large part to play in it. Thanks. Look, there are three factors you look at it if these are involved out here. First is the fact that it's not just about the three of them. Ajit definitely, as the chairman of selectors, had a long-term vision. And I think when the story was unfinished for us, literally in 19th November last year, they decided that they needed to complete it. I genuinely feel that had we won in 2023, 19th November, perhaps Virat and Rohit would not have had the energy to come out here and want to do this again. They might not have. But what happened is that I think they wanted so much to bring this for India that they were very clear about it from the very start. And I just loved the way they did it. And for me, I think the most important thing is not that they were the greatest of friends, which they were, but the fact that a lot of senior players put seeming differences aside because they wanted to win this for India. And at the end of the day, that was more important to them than anything else. You see, in Indian cricket, a lot of people talk about, this camp and that camp and all that. And I think what I really enjoyed about this campaign was the fact that the topmost players of this country put it aside and said, that's not why we started playing cricket. We started playing cricket because we wanted to win a World Cup for India. And all of those guys got together, put their egos, put whatever differences were aside, and made it happen. And I think, it's a great story to say that they are great friends. I think it's a greater story to say that it doesn't matter that they're great friends or not. For them, winning this for India was more important than anything else. And I think that is something that I've really enjoyed. And the way they've done it is absolutely fantastic.
Mr. Engineer, if I can come back to you at this point, what would be your advice to the BCCI, the selectors for the future? You've got top players in the Indian squad who had a stellar performance in the T20 World Cup and also over the last 2 decades, the likes of Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli. They're in their late 30s, 37, 36 years of age. Now, going forward, what does the young generation need to do better? What do the selectors really need to think about for the future? If there were certain takeaways from this T20, what would those be according to you?
Fortunately, our cricket is in very, very good hands. Starting with BCCI, I think they've played a splendid role. Jay Shah and his team have done tremendously well for BCCI. The selectors, Ajit Agarkar and his team, have done a phenomenal job. And of course, most importantly, the players on the field, and for having the confidence that they need to have. There were talks about dropping Virat Kohli for the last test and getting young Jaiswal in. That was the thing. But how can you drop a man with such a brilliant record behind him? So fortunately for India, we've got so much bench strength. Jaiswal, then the spinners, and we got such Sanju Samson as a wicketkeeper. Of course, Pant has done a tremendous job. And I, for one, am absolutely delighted that he's recovered so well from his injury. He had a very, very serious injury. I spoke to Rishabh much before that and had a long chat with him about wicket-keeping and all that. He's such a great lad. And I'm so delighted for him that he had the confidence and he's put in the hard miles, hard work, and has become an excellent wicket-keeper. His batting has always been, explosive. So we have got a lot of bench strength. So a lot of guys the selectors can come to. Of course, we're going to miss Rohit, Virat, and all that. But, we've got the finest fast bowler in the world in Jasprit Bumrah. We've got the finest spinners in the world, Kuldeep Yadav and all that. So, our bench strength, I keep on repeating bench strength, is absolutely fantastic. So selectors have got a lot of choice. And just keep on doing what you've been doing. And more and more victories will follow because we got a tremendous, fascination for cricket in our country. Cricket is religion in India. and I am thousands of miles away, but still I breathe every breath with the cricketers and with its supporters. So, Chak De India, keep on doing the great work you've been doing. We Indians are very, very proud of you.
No better words of comfort for followers like us that Indian cricket is in very safe hands, and that too from who other than Mr. Engineer. And as he rightly put, right, this victory is as much of the bowlers as it is of the batsmen, because it was the bowlers who have brought the team out of near improbable situations, even in the final, even in the game against Pakistan. And my colleague Surabhi had a question on that, exactly on that.
Yeah, sure. So this question is for Sharda. As you spoke about Bumrah's, performance. So in Indian team, the batting lineup was always considered to be the strength of the team. But lately, we have seen that the bowlers have literally outdone themselves and have literally won matches for us. So do you think that we are, kind of building on that? And do you also feel that, somehow they are not as, celebrated as the, the batting lineup?
Thanks for that question. I'm a big champion of bowlers in cricket per se. And I think in the last, say, maybe 5-7 years, you've seen a massive change in the quality of the Indian attack across formats. So you're talking about Test cricket as well, which is why we are able to win Test matches overseas and Test series overseas. And I think Bumrah's performance, Akshar Patel's all-round performance as well. You've seen, I don't think the bowlers are in the background anymore. The discussions that don't tend to happen about them is that should a bowler be a captain rather than a batsman? So you're saying Hardik Pandya at one level, but why can't it be Jasprit Bumrah as well? And I think it's the whole bowler-batsman imbalance that was there in Indian cricket that has definitely changed and shifted, not just in this event, but say in the last, say maybe 5-7 years, because you've had a very good pack of fast bowlers. And as Dale Steyn says, batsmen win matches and bowlers win tournaments, and that's what they did for India this time. I just want bowlers to get more credit than they do. I want the rules to be kinder to them.
Indeed, the rules to be kinder to them. As they say, the cricket is a batsman-friendly game, as it is turning out to be. But of course, the bowlers more often than not put their hand up and say, of course, we are here as well. But my colleague Jerome had a question as well.
Hi, Gaurav. In 2019, you and me got onto a podcast where we discussed in West Indies tour of India. Post that tour, our immediate conversation was on the 50 overs World Cup, and I remember you clearly saying that they're not just preparing for the 50 over World Cup, but they're going to look forward to the T20 World Cup too. Was this expected that this team would go ahead and lift this title?
Well done on remembering what I said back in 2019, Jerome. I often struggle to remember what I said yesterday, but just try. I'm surprised it's taken this long for India to win a World Cup in this format. I mean, you've got to remember India is. Sharda is the eminent writer among us, but India really is the soul of T20 cricket in the world. It hosts the biggest T20 tournament that there is. And since the IPL came into being in 2008, there had been 8 World Cups and India hadn't won a single one. So it was a bit of an anomaly in itself that India, this country that hosts the biggest T20 tournament there is going around, the most competitive, the whole world comes and plays here, that India hasn't gone on and won a T20 World Cup. There have been disappointments. There's also been talk about whether India picks the right kind of players for T20 cricket, but that needed to be addressed, and it has been by this squad. The last 2 World Cups have been disappointments from an Indian lens, and the fact that India went into this World Cup with quite a few personnel from those 2 tournaments did raise a few eyebrows. But I think India's understood that there is a new template, perhaps not so much in this tournament where the bowling conditions where bowlers got a lot more than you usually get in T20 tournaments. But going forward, I think India has several players who can be called the T20 first generation, Jerome, and I think that is going to make a selection very interesting going forward. Will India start to identify players who are just going to play white ball cricket for them. You've got the likes of Abhishek Sharma, and look at the squad that is actually now going to Zimbabwe. And I think you're going to see a lot. You're going to see teams that are significantly different in white ball and red ball cricket. And I see that with the quality of players that India produces in T20 cricket, there's no reason why they're not going to win a bunch of World Cups over the next 8 or 10 years. Remember, the T20 World Cup is every 2 years, so that gives them that many more opportunities to win.
Right. Great to hear that, Gaurav. Let me also go across to Joy now. Joy, as Gaurav was pointing about, having horses for courses, having a different set of players who specialize in every format of the game. Do you also believe that we need to go in for different captains, split different coaches, split coaching as well, have a coach for every format of the game?
Look, I think some countries have tried it. England has tried it, and they've been pretty successful in the sense that what they've got in terms of absolutely changing their white ball game and to a certain extent playing their test match cricket in a much more exciting way. There's no problem at all. Remember one thing, I mean, this is Indian cricket is a full-time job. I mean, Indian cricket, other than the 2 months of the IPL, they're literally playing 10 months a year. So to have somebody to stand up to that kind of pressure and be able to plan for it, I'd love to see a test match coach who can go away, plan for the test matches, plan what's going to happen out there while the ODIs are going on. So we just the amount of cricket we play and the kind of stars that we're looking to look after, like the test match team, looking after somebody like Shami, looking after the fitness of somebody like Bumrah over time. All these require specialist people. So I definitely think having a specialist staff, of course, there has to be somebody who's overall looking at the big picture, but that's the selectors' jobs as well. They're looking at the big picture, and somebody, perhaps the most senior coach, has an eye out over what is happening over both formats. But look, don't kill the man, whoever's doing it. I think they need to have a situation where they divide this responsibility up. And there's so much to be done. There's so much to be done because you see what's happened is the amount of cricket we play and a lot of T20 cricket, the consideration set for Indian cricket used to be, if you have 11 players out there, there are about 20, 25 players in the mix. Now you're ending up at a situation with fast bowlers rotating and spinners rotating according to format. You have about 45, 50 players at any one time in that India mix. There are that many players who are capable of making it into the team, especially among the bowlers and the younger batters. So what happens there is that you need to keep an eye on all these people to make sure that you're following their progress and they are physically and mentally fit to do it. So yes, I would go for 2 coaches definitely, and just make sure that everyone perhaps have a senior coach who's overseeing both, but give him enough help in formats so that he doesn't have to travel, say, for Zimbabwe, which even this time is not happening. So definitely more coaches than one.
All right. Mr. Farooq Engineer, what do you feel? Do you feel that somebody like Gautam Gambhir may do a great job as head coach? His name has been doing the rounds. And if we were also asking you to compare this T20 World Cup winning team to Kapil Dev's World Cup winning team, what would be the similarities according to you?
Well, Joy Bhattacharya made a very good point in having a specialist team coach for different formats. But I don't think all the hard work has already been done. We've got so much talent in India, so much strength in the whole squad, if you can pick 2 teams from India, I think they could both come in the finals. I mean, our bench strength is so good. People like Shami and all haven't had a look at even but I mean, we got some great bowlers, great batsmen, great wicket keepers. So we got 2. India can field 2 teams. So the hard work has already been done, thanks to people like Ravi Shastri and now Rahul Dravid. So Gautam Gambhir, if he comes, I wish him all the best. But I think he'll inherit a lot of team confidence, a lot of potential, a lot of talent, already proved talent. India are not short in confidence by any means. We believe in ourselves. We have always done. We are a very proud nation. And I think all the players strictly believe in themselves. They believed it from the beginning that we are going to win this T20 World Cup. And in spite of the late, surcharge, when South Africa needed only 30 runs in 30 balls. I mean, they choked. But all credit to people like Jasprit Bumrah and Suryakant Yadav, who took that magnificent catch. And, and Hardik Pandya's good bowling. Of course, it was a team effort. But these three stood out in the end and showed our country and the cricketing world that what a solid team we are. We are not short of confidence at all. So whosoever inherits Gautam Gambhir, I think we should stick with our Indians. Why go to foreigners? We've crept to foreigners far too long. I'm disappointed that in the IPL, so many foreign coaches are there. We've got talent in India. We've got Indians who have tried and proved themselves. So give our ex-players an opportunity to sort of, be the managers, team coaches or whatnot, because they've proved their merit. They're ex-India cricketers, so they're solid performers. So why look for foreigners? If a foreigner is absolutely outstanding, but I can't see any foreigner being so much superior to any of our Indian ex-players. So for God's sake, stick to our people, who speak our language and think our way, because this is very important to make the players feel comfortable in the dressing room.
Quickly, I'd like to take a question from our viewer who has written to us on Twitter. Arun Bhandari asks, T20 and ODI Cups are feel-good events. What needs to be done to draw attention and big crowds towards test matches and long-term plans to become a feared test match team in all conditions? Sharda, if you could take that.
How come I get the tough question? Okay, no, I'm just joking. I'm just saying that, how do you improve test cricket audiences and so on? Play them in places where the audience will come. Make ticketing far more simple than it is. Ticketing in Indian cricket is an absolute mess. And I think that we have a test team that can go and compete and win overseas. We've got the bowlers that we need. I don't think that there's a shortage of talent in the country. What the Indian team and the selectors and the entire management has done in this event is what was missing the last few times is what are the selections you make, how do you read the conditions, and who do you pick? It's that simple. It's not a very complicated thing, and they were able. They took the right decisions. They made the right selections, and they played the team. They brought the trophy home because of like Mr. Engineer said. I think it was Joy who said that luck also plays a part. You need luck as well. So that's basically the formula that there is. You play where test matches will be watched, and you make ticketing easy, and you throw open the stadium if you think the crowd's not going to come, and people will come. I'm just looking at the photographs, and I'm just I'm just absolutely delighted to look at this massive crowd that's turned up. Wherever they think they're going to have this parade and efficient, within a specific point of time, they're sadly mistaken. So you just need to think about the fans, I think, a little bit more and plan your test matches, not in venues where people will not show up, but in places where test cricket is appreciated. The appetite for cricket in India is different everywhere, and you have to respond in a way that people will turn up. They will turn up. There is absolutely no doubt. Just make sure that the ticketing is kept logical and easy, and they'll come.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd also like to quickly ask about, there's another World Cup that we'll be watching out for.
May I just add a small point to that, if you don't mind, before you ask your question, just what Sharda was saying. I think Sharda makes a very important point about about fans and about the interest in Test match cricket. But I think as fans, as kind of people who are involved in the cricket ecosystem, we also have to recognize that at this moment in time, there's no doubt that the ruling the roost in the minds of the fans is this form of the game, is T20 cricket. We just have to see how the IPL functions. Sharda mentioned the crowds that are there, and I think it's very simple to just make the clear juxtaposition. Had this been an Indian team that was returning after winning the World Test Championship, we wouldn't have seen crowds of this kind. So yes, as times have changed, it's important and imperative to protect and further Test cricket. But I think we also have to recognize that at this moment in time, T20 cricket is what is drawing the crowds in.
Well, definitely, Gaurav. Like I was saying, Sharda and Gaurav, another World Cup that we're looking out for this year is ICC T20 Women's World Cup. What do you think could be the lessons that we can draw from this particular tournament that women in blue can put into practice to bring that cup home as well?
Asking Gaurav?
To what has been said by Sharda and Gaurav.
Yes,
Hello?
Gaurav. Yes.
Yes, I'm just saying that this present Indian team is so good that it can adapt itself to T20 cricket, to 50-over cricket, or even to test match cricket. You know, this is a good selection of the boys who are good in all formats of the game. Of course, we got very, very good players standing aside in the reserves and to take the place of people who are retiring or sadly retiring, and they're still fit to go on for years, I think. But we've got so much confidence and so much ability in the squad that they can adapt themselves to any form of cricket and bring more trophies for our Mother India.
Right. Beautifully put, sir. Let me also get in Joy. I believe Joy has to leave. We will be keeping this program going till the next 30 minutes as well. But Joy, if I were to ask you about Rohit Sharma's legacy, he's retired from the T20 format, but if we have to look back at his captaincy, his stint with the Indian cricket team, what is the legacy he leaves behind?
I think he left, I mean, his legacy for me was already secure, even though we did not win the World Cup in 2023, because the way he led the team, the way he changed his cricket to play, he changed his cricket, he deliberately took risks up front, he set the stage up for the way India would play the tournament. And we won 10 games in a row because of that, because he just so much fearlessness he brought to it, so much passion he brought to it. And I think that's the thing that he's brought here again. And remember one thing, that, you know, every captain has his own style. I mean, Dhoni is a captain, cool. But Rohit Sharma is a favorite among players because Rohit Sharma is he's just such a warm and endearing personality. And I remember, it's a very interesting thing. In 2018, there was an IPL happening. No, it was 2018 or 19. And at that point in time, Kuldeep Yadav was off form. You know, he was just not, it was not working for him in the IPL. And, you know, whatever it is, had happened sometimes that the, you know, teams don't balance out. And at that point in time, Rohit was playing for Mumbai, Kuldeep was playing for Kolkata. After the match, Rohit goes, meets Kuldeep, spends time with him just to understand what his issues are and to just give him that boost, because he knows that Kuldeep is a huge weapon, not just for Kolkata, but for India. And he's somebody who's a huge part of India's success in the future. So Rohit is that kind of guy. He'll look out, find the guy who's quiet, find the guy who's not having a good time and make him happy. And therefore that, the warmth, the obvious affection that players have for him. I mean, if you see the way when, you know, Virat was walking up and suddenly Rohit smiles and, you know, just gives him that hug, there was just so much genuine feeling and emotion in it. It was just, it makes you think about how well not only has he led this side, but how much feeling he has for this. And I think Rohit's legacy, you know, we used to talk about him being the, you know, greatest IPL captain ever. I'm so delighted that he has a World Cup trophy also in that cupboard of his. That legacy will be, because he is one of my favorite cricketers and he's a favorite cricketer of so many people.
That's absolutely right. Thank you so much, Joy, for joining us. Let me also ask about Suryakumar Yadav, who took that catch, and that was a very important catch in the tournament. Sharda, what did you feel about that moment?
I thought it was over when the ball went into the air. I absolutely thought it was over. And then suddenly pops out at the bottom of the screen. And I have no idea. I cannot fathom what was going on in his mind, if anything was going on in his mind, or he's just responding, as to how he was able to make those 2-3 steps, which in term you're looking at, if you're looking at it later on, is that you have to know at what speed you're running, you have to know at where you are. So there's that spatial awareness that you need to have. It was just an absolutely crazy moment. And the fact that he was able to pull that off and say, we practice and that's why we knew we could do it, is just, I mean, I'm thinking if that catch had 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of, I think 7 times out of 10, he would have dropped it. You know, or something would have gone wrong. Not dropped it, something would have gone wrong. His foot would have gone over the rope. We don't know. But it's just a question of how much of drive and belief there was at that point that we are in this. We can get this. This game is ours. This title is ours. That he just literally went ahead and did it. It's just an incredible moment. And I also remember a story I was told that in 2009 he missed out on a IPL contract with Rajasthan Royal because of his bad fielding, and Shane Warne got very angry. So you look at how he's sort of changed himself to become this match winner, this incredible fielder. He was made to. They had 4 fielders that occupied what they call hot spots where the catch was going to come. Him, Aksar, Virat. But there was no logic. Like your brain was not functioning. Your mind wasn't functioning when you saw that catch go up and you saw him take it. It's absolutely incredible. He's going to live off this for the rest of his life.
It will be remembered. Yes, those are the kind of things that legends are made of. But Gaurav, if I were to ask you about both Jasprit Bumrah and Arshdeep Singh, how would you rate their performance? Wasim Akram had a bit of advice for Arshdeep Singh, also telling him that you need to concentrate on the longer format of the game, Test cricket as well.
He's still a young man. I think he's made his way into the national team, obviously on the back of his exploits in the IPL. He's also had success at domestic level. And there's very little doubt that here's someone who's got all of the skill sets that you need and the mental makeup, because in those kinds of situations where he was called upon to bowl, he came in and did exactly what the team required at that point in time. Remember, he's had a little bit of experience at T20 World Cup level. He's played a couple of World Cups. He was in the World Cup in Australia. He was in the World Cup in Dubai. So it isn't this condition. These scenarios weren't completely alien to him. But here is obviously a player that India has remained invested in. There was a talk before the World Cup about India needing a bowler of his kind, left armer, which obviously is important here, someone who can bowl with the new ball in the power play and also then back up Bumrah in at the back end of the innings. And when you're playing a game the kind that India were playing, essentially a run a ball game with the opposition having the number of wickets that they did, you need a bowler who's able to do 2 things: exercise control, so not bowl bad balls, which actually puts that equation in the favor of the opposition, and also be able to take wickets. And Arshdeep is able to do both. He was among the highest wicket takers in the series. So quite clearly, I think it will be a journey. I'm not quite sure where his game is when it comes to being able to play test match cricket, whether he's got the overs in his legs and he's done the yard. He's ready to play what they call days cricket, which is bowling 15-20 overs in a day. He's played a little bit of county cricket, so he's experienced that. But again, there's someone who's really, really young. I mean, just 3 or 4 years ago, he was part of the team that won the Under-19 World Cup, along with Rahul Dravid as the coach of that team. So he's come along well, but he's got still a long way to go. Obviously, is now permanently has the tag of being world champion in front of him. And I don't think, Parikshit, there's a lot left to say about Jasprit Bumrah. India should just count themselves very, very lucky. I think among this generation of great players that India has been blessed with over the last 8 or 10 years, there's no doubt now in my mind that if you look at any triumph that India has had, whatever format it might be over the last 5 or 6 years, what a big role Jasprit Bumrah has played in that. And he's still got 5 or 6 years, I think, in front of him. He had a bad back issue last year, came back after surgery, and he's as good as new. So Indian cricket can only hope that he can stay like this for the next 5 or 6 years, because he is, no question, an all-time great.
A national treasure indeed is Jasprit Bumrah, and what bigger compliment he could get from the great Andy Roberts, who said that he could have taken the new ball in their era in the most fearsome fast bowling attack that the West Indies had back in the day. But we also have Hemant Kenkre joining in on the broadcast. Mr. Kenkre, good evening. Thank you for joining in. Or Professor Kenkre, if I could call you that. Bring the topic back to the discussion of coaches. We were having this discussion just a few minutes ago. And coaching franchisee cricket and coaching the Indian cricket team is a completely different ball game altogether, right? You need to have the temperament to handle the superstars of Indian cricket, and then to bring in the younger talent, to nurture them and to make them feel belong to this setup as well. It's a full-time job, as a lot of our experts alluded to earlier as well. Who do you think, what should be the ideal quality of the next Indian coach that the BCCI is likely to pick anytime soon now?
Well, as Mr. Engineer rightly said, that we should look for Indian coaches. We have the people. We have tremendous amount of former cricketers, tremendous experience, etc. But I think human relations is very critical. Man management, because what Ravi did, and I've had the pleasure of playing with and under Ravi Shastri at the Tatas for many years ago, and I've saw one thing about Ravi, that he's a great man manager. And I think to be a good man manager is, I think, utmost important, apart from, because when you are selected to play for India, you're already coached in that sense. You know what I mean? You don't need really any coaching. So I think it's all about managing people, managing the team, managing egos, or managing whatever pluses, minuses, etc. And obviously a lot of respect that the team has for that particular coach, like the kind of respect that the team showed Rahul Dravid and they showed to Ravi Shastri earlier. And so I think that is a very critical element, because see, you have a batting coach, and you have a bowling coach, and you have a fielding coach. You have everybody. What you basically need is somebody to get all those guys together, and be a good manager of humans, understand where they're coming from, listen to them, talk to them, etc. And that's one area which, Rohit particularly and Rahul have succeeded on, because everybody in the post-game, sort of interviews they've given, they said that, these guys had time for us. And I think that is very critical, man management.
The focus shifts to the future. As always, there are some other important tournaments coming in as well. The focus now goes back to the World Test Championship, the Champions Trophy that is lined up next year. So Anurag had a question on that as well.
Yes, Farooq sir, do you think we are the favourites for these two tournaments? We have just 12 months coming in, or do we need to do some changes with the new coach coming in? Will this current team be the favourites, or there are some changes lined up?
That's a very good question indeed. I mean, on the question of the manager, I agree with my dear friend Hemant Kenkre, who just said that there's so much, these guys, Ravi Shastri, man management he mentioned, is very important. He, Rahul Dravid, they've both done a tremendous job, and hats off to them. And whosoever comes in, Gautam Gambhir, hopefully, I hope there's an Indian coach that comes in. That would please me more. But this team, to answer your question, has got so much talent that they can adapt themselves to any format of the game. There's at this level, the coaches, they do not actually coach the players. The players are good enough to be selected for India. So already know their responsibilities. They already know how good they are or what their weaknesses are. You don't need a lot to tell them. They're already clever enough to know that. So coaching is a little tinkering here. Just dot the I's and cross the T's maybe. But you can't coach and make a guy at that level, because he's already proved himself to be an Indian Test cricketer. So he's already got the runs or the wickets, a batsman or a bowler or keeper, maybe. So this team has got so much strength that it can adapt to any format of the game. And I have no doubt at all that in the coming months or years, we will continue to be the force and we will be the team to beat, really. So I see a very bright future for Indian cricket. Shabash, you guys have done tremendously proud, and keep going. I have no doubt you'll bring more kudos to our Indian cricket.
We hope so too, sir. We hope so too. But Gaurav, if we were to ask you about probably some of the shortcomings, maybe not the best time to speak about them, but if we had to look at the future, and if there were certain points which you feel we need to strengthen in our cricket ecosystem, what would those be?
Well, if you look at, for instance, one area where India would want to have a little bit more reinforcement is the area that of the all-rounders. I think besides Hardik Pandya, there isn't really a fast bowling all-rounder in India that the selectors feel extremely confident about. There is Nitish Reddy, who played for the Sunrisers Hyderabad in the IPL, and he was originally included in the squad that's going to Zimbabwe, but has been pulled out because of injury. Shivam Dube, the selectors aren't, the team management didn't seem very confident about his ability as a bowler in this tournament. So I think that's one area which is a small area for India, because in T20 cricket, it always helps to have multi-skilled players. And I think India will want to see if there is a way to find players of that kind. It hasn't helped that there is a rule in the IPL called the impact player rule, which means that you can actually substitute one of your players out in the second innings, which means that you can play more specialists, and as a result don't need all-rounders. And as a direct consequence of that, teams don't develop all-rounders which can serve Indian cricket. So small things like that, Parikshit. Always, sport and Mr. Engineer and Hemant, they've played cricket at a very high level. They'll tell you this much better than I ever can. Sport is always evolutionary. They're always moving forward. Even after the great team in 1971 won in England and in the West Indies, it wasn't like they stopped. They tried to keep on getting better. They had setbacks. Subsequent to that, there is no guarantee that India will go into the next World Cup and win. There is a Champions Trophy coming up in 2025. India will want to do that, to have success in that. India hasn't won a World Test Championship, so they will want to first ensure that they qualify for the final in 2025 and then go ahead and win it. So it's always a continuum. It's always moving forward. It's never static. I mean, a day like this, you see those images that are coming out of Marine Drive, and just gives you a sense of deja vu. I was covering it feels like yesterday, but it was 2007. It was exactly like this, Parikshit. The whole sort of the whole of Marine Drive full of people as the team drove into the stadium, and the players will be aware of that. Today is a day of celebration. The next few days maybe is a day of celebration, but then they'll all knuckle down and look at the next challenge that's coming up in front of them. That's the very nature of sport, and they're going to have to keep on moving forward and look at where they are as a team, look at the shortcomings that they have, look at the areas that they need to improve on, and look at how they can keep finding ways and means and formulas to keep having this success. That's the whole beauty of sport, that you can't predict what's going to happen. I guess it's a bit like what you do, Parikshit. It's a bit like the markets. You can't really tell what's going to happen the next day.
You wrote an article where you mentioned this nation and this team deserve this World Cup. Indeed, ummeed tha, and we won.
And hope is where everything lies, isn't it? And to all our viewers, thank you so much for joining in on this very special broadcast right here on CNBC TV 18 to celebrate our world champions. From Surbhi, Rachna, Jerome, Anurag, me and Parikshit and the entire team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. More news and updates continue right here.